Hello, hello, hey, I got something to say, people. Woo! Are you in for a treat today? I met Vibha, I think at a conference down in the city. She's going to have to remind me which conference it was. It might have been for women engineers. I don't know what I was doing there, but it might have been. And
Yeah, it
so
was.
while I was there, was it? That's awesome. And I was so touched by you that I was like, oh my God, I have to bring you on the show. I have to bring you on the show. But before we start chatting, can I tell them a little bit about you? Because this is definitely just a little bit about, like, I'm sitting here going through all your accomplishments, and I was like, oh my God, crazy. So let me just tell you a little bit and make sure I say it right. Vibha Agrawal. Did I do it right?
It's perfect.
I
You're
probably
good. You're
not,
good.
Viva is the Vice President of External Relations at the Mainline Chamber of Commerce and the Vice President of the Mainline Chamber Foundation. Her role encompasses communications, government affairs, and workforce development and talent initiatives. She also leads the Greater Philadelphia Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Forum, which brings together major companies in the region to explore ways to enhance DEIB in the workplace. As vice president of the Mainline Chamber Foundation, Viva facilitates the foundation's grant making and fundraising efforts. Oh, that's hard, including academic scholarships for emergency responders. We're going to stop there and get right into it. I keep reading on, and we are going to have Viva on our longer show. Let's keep it real, where we'll dive even more. I don't think she sleeps. I just don't even think it's possible to do all this and have a child, but welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sandy. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited about this conversation and welcome to all of your listeners.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy they're going to get to hear you. So, I asked you about what was the one thing you wanted to tell women around the world, and you said resilience and adaptability are key to creating personal and professional success and happiness. There is no one path to success, and your journey is unique. Okay, let's dive in. Why'd you pick that?
So, Sandy, I think you and I have spoken about this before. I am an immigrant. I left my home country of India when I was just 21 years old.
Mm,
And I've had to adapt in a million ways, in a million some small, like really small ways, and some really large ways. So, like the smallest way that I've had to adapt in India and in Britain, your date, like when you write your check, it's date, month, and year. And in the US, it's month, date, and year. So somebody born here doesn't even think about that. Do you ever think about that when you write a date on a check?
no.
Right? Or when you're telling somebody your birthday, I had to adapt to that because my birthday is no longer, 5th July, it's July 5th.
Yeah.
Okay. So another small thing in India or in British English, you spell color COLOUR,
Mm,
right? In the US, we do COLOR. And as a writer, I'm a communicator. Those are some things that I had to learn and adapt. So, really, the journey of an immigrant anywhere in this world, wherever you're going,
mm.
it's about adapting. You have to adapt in so many small and large ways. I don't have common ground with people who grew up here, right? I didn't go to school here. I don't have that network. So adapting in the workplace and creating connections can be harder.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say too is though, as you're adapting, as you're moving into the workplace, as you're, creating success for yourself, it's really important not to lose yourself while you're adapting. So, there is that fine line
Okay.
between adapting and giving up on who you are. I never changed my name. I will explain how to say my name 15 times to somebody who wants to learn it, but I'm not going to change my name to make it easier on somebody else, right? There were times in my life when I was younger. I grew up
That's a good point.
vegetarian, right? I grew up vegetarian. And I covered that up because I didn't want to feel different. I didn't want to go out for meals and be like, oh, I only eat vegetarian food. And this was before vegetarian became popular,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I started eating chicken and fish because I wanted to fit in. And as
Oh,
I have grown in my career and in my life, I'm like, I don't need to do that. I can be who I am. So there is a difference between adapting and sort of making sure that you can be successful in the environment you're in. But I would encourage people to be who you are.
yeah,
Bring your
yeah.
own voice to the table. Who you are is unique. Nobody else is like you. So don't lose yourself, even while you're adapting.
You know, before we came on, you and I were chatting about that, and I thought about that. You really have to take a step back and spend time with yourself to make sure, am I just trying to fit in or am I adapting to the situation? And it gets sticky sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is what we're doing today is a culmination of years and years of fearing public speaking in the US because of my accent.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, always like, how is that going to be perceived? And then, thinking about the same questions. Oh, where are you from? And how long have you been here? Oh, like you speak so well. And, like having to deal with all of those comments and questions made it hard for me to do public speaking. Like I remember going for comedy shows and I never sat in the front because I was always afraid that the comic would pick me, and say
Oh,
to me, hey, what's your name and where are you from? Because I didn't want to go through the whole story of where I came from and what my name is, and then having to say my name 15 times. Those are things that you don't often think about unless you are in a different environment. And it's taken me a
yeah.
long time to get to a place, Sandy, where I'm like, this is who I am. This is how I speak. I don't worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
just comes from the journey of, figuring out who you really are through all of your different experiences.
And do you think some of it comes, with, like you said, wisdom with age? Because I'm thinking I would love, do you go into schools and talk to children? Because I could see you really having an impact on a lot of young people.
Yeah, so actually, part of my role at the chamber is to work with high school students. And we
Mm,
talk to high school students about how they can be successful, not just in their careers, but in life.
yeah.
And part of that is about communications and speaking and listening and being really authentic to who you are. Because if you're not who you are and you're not advocating for yourself, nobody else is going to do that for you.
You know,
You
I,
have to be completely confident in who you
yeah.
are.
I think I'm so happy you're making me think of things that I didn't even think of, which is how many times you have to, I know me, I want to get it right, say your name over and over again, or they hear your accent and they want to know how long you've been here, when did you come, over and over again. I didn't even think of that. So even just wearing, you with people who want to do the right thing and do care, it's raising awareness of things that we didn't even think about.
Yes, and I think it's taken me a while to get here, but I do feel like if we tell our stories, people listen.
Yeah.
People want to know these stories. They want to understand. So, I think I was telling you this earlier. For the first time in years, I posted on LinkedIn about an Indian holiday. And that's something I would have never talked about in a professional environment before.
Hmm.
And it's not just people who are immigrants, all of us. There is data that says 61% of American employees spend time and energy covering up who they really are. They might be covering up,
Wow.
they might be covering up in their appearance. They might be covering up what they're eating in the workplace. They might be covering up who they really are. For example, not declaring a holiday, not telling your colleagues that it's a holiday for you and just saying, hey, I'm going to take a day off because, I'm sick. rather than letting them know it's a holiday for you or it's an important day
Oh,
for you and you're celebrating, right? So, 61% of us spend energy covering who we really are in the workplace. And that's not adaptability. That's, missing a piece of who you really are. And so I posted on LinkedIn about two of my, favorite Indian holidays, and the feedback was so positive
oh, good.
because, people again, they resonate. When you're real, when you're authentic, that's when you're going to make those connections.
I can't believe it. Like like you said, all this time, and then finally, well, you were ready, and maybe they were ready to receive it too. Who knows what it would have been like 10 years ago?
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Absolutely. And when we talk about, let's talk about resilience. So one of my favorite things, I have a graphic that says resilience plus adaptability is greater than adversity. And what
Love
that
that. I
means
love it.
is, right, what that means is you can get through, everybody has hard times. Like, who among us has not had challenges in our lives, whether
Yeah.
that's health or financial or professional or relationships? We've all been through hard times, but we can get through those hard times. And the way we do that is being resilient and being adaptable. And that doesn't mean that you push down your emotions and be Pollyanna all the time and be like, oh, life is great. That's not healthy. Give yourself the grace and the kindness to sit in that moment. If you're feeling low, let yourself feel low, but then have an action plan on how you're going to move forward. I'll give you an example. I've gone through, I'm a cancer survivor. And my whole career trajectory changed because
Mm,
because of that, right?
yeah.
And that's okay. That's totally fine because the work that I do today is so meaningful to me. It's
Mm,
different than where I thought I would be, 15 years ago, but it's nonetheless so meaningful. And it's
mm.
actually brought me to a better place in my life professionally than I could have created for myself had I stayed at the same trajectory. So, one example that I give to people is, it's very simple and maybe a little too simple, but it's powerful. So my husband and I had planned to go to Greece. It was a dream vacation for us. We'd been planning it for months and months and months. And we had this whole detailed itinerary laid out. And, this day we're going to do this, and then we're going to go here, and then we're going to hike to the top of Delphi and, look at all these gorgeous views. And I landed up being diagnosed with cancer and having my surgery 1 month before we were planning to go to Greece.
Oof.
So we had two choices. Either we could have just canceled the vacation, or we could adapt our vacation to our current situation, which is what we did. So I
Mm,
couldn't hike up to the top of Delphi and see those great views, but I could sit at a great restaurant and watch a sunset.
mm,
I couldn't eat every single thing that was on the menu, but I could still have fresh fish caught that day in the waters. So, the point is, you don't have to necessarily have the exact same life that you imagined or wanted or planned. You have to enjoy the life that you have today. So let go of that
mm.
illusion of life that you had planned for yourself so that you can really live in the moment and enjoy the life that you have today. We all can make beautiful lives for ourselves if we're willing to be flexible and adapt and look at life in a positive way and understand that while we can't control what happens, I mean, I couldn't control that I had cancer, but I could control my response to it. I chose to look at it as something to, I got to get through it. I got to get the right things done. I got to do the surgery. I got to do the therapy. And then I got to move on. And then I've got to figure out what my action steps are to move my life forward in a way that's still positive and that meets my purpose and my goal and that makes me happy. It might not be the exact same life that I had planned
Mm.
before that happened, but it's still going to be a great life.
But this is going to lead me to some of the questions I got for you, which some of them are like, whew, but I will try to get to at least a few of them. All
Hmm.
right. We make up names. So this young lady, her name is Sally Bell, let's say. Sally says she understand. I sent her, I sent my peeps your information. She says she understands that logically, but she was supposed to go to pre-med school, got pregnant, had to move away because she would have been shunned by her family. She is married, happy, has two other kids, but she can't help thinking about the life she would have had if she didn't get pregnant. And instead of being an executive assistant, she would have been a doctor. How does she get over that?
Yeah, I mean, I had to get over it. So before I got cancer, I was in a um, very high-end corporate communications career, highly successful, on the road to be an SVP, making a lot of money. And when I got cancer, I had to think about how to balance my life, how to continue to be healthy while still having a productive career and a productive life. I would say to Sally, look at all that you've achieved. You know, Sometimes we get caught in the trap of regretting what we don't have rather than applauding ourselves for the life and the accomplishments that we have built for ourselves. I mean, oh my gosh, Sally, you are so accomplished. Look at all the great things you've accomplished. You're raising kids. You are in a profession. You're highly respected in your own professional environment. You're valuable to the organization that you're working in. There's so much that we accomplish on a daily basis that we don't give ourselves credit for. And so I would say, don't get trapped in negative self-talk. you know think about all the great things that you've achieved. One of the things that I started doing is a gratitude exercise, and it might sound hokey, Sandy, but it's really helpful, for people who've gone through huge adversities
Mm.
and have had to adapt and flex and be resilient. It's really helpful to name just one thing every day that you're grateful for, and that really allows you to think about your accomplishments and all the good things that you're surrounded with, and that you may have had to let go of certain things, but look at all the great things that you have in your life now.
I like that. No, and I not every time, everything I resonate with because I am very much about keeping it simple and just doing that every day. That one little thing can make a huge shift. A huge
Yes,
shift.
yes. And also, Sally, never say never. I don't know your age, I don't know your situation,
She's
but
33.
I have friends who have built an entirely different career at 35. So never say never. If this is something
Good
you're
point.
really passionate about and you can still go after it, do it.
All right, this is another one. We'll call her Betty Boop. So she has a very complicated name, and everyone kept getting it wrong at work. So they decided they were going to call her B. And she wasn't for it, but then finally she went with it. Well, now after 2 years, she doesn't want to be called B. She wants to be called her full name, but she doesn't know how to bring it up to everybody in the corporation. And
Oh
she
my
feels
God.
like what? Let me, blah, 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 blah. She feels like she sold herself down the river.
I resonate with every word of that question because guess how many people get my name right? Zero.
Yeah.
And, I have just learned that it's okay. It's okay to get it wrong. And I don't mind correcting people. I want them to get my name right. So I will correct somebody over and over again. I'll be like, it's Vibha. It's Vibha. I have actually written to people who spell my name wrong, even though I have emailed them and my email signature is at the bottom of the email. They will respond to me and they will spell my name wrong. And I very kindly and politely
Yeah.
say to them, thank you so much for your email. I just want to point out that my name is spelled as it is in my signature, and it's Vibha. Nobody minds, if this is something that's
Yeah.
important to you. What she's doing is covering. Remember we talked about that,
Yeah. Yeah.
covering who you are. That's an example of covering. And you don't want to spend your energy covering. You want to spend your energy shining. And if this is something that's important to you, to be called by the name that you were given, like, why wouldn't that be important to you? It's your name, it's what makes you you. You put it
Mhm.
out there. Tell people, I would really appreciate being called by my name, just as I call you by yours. I'm not calling you S or W or V, and I would appreciate you calling me by my name. That's important to me. If you tell people that this is something that's important to you, chances are they listen and they'll appreciate and respect that.
I like that. And I love the fact that you said the name that's in my signature.
Very kindly, always very kindly, because again, we just have to remember people are not doing this because they're mean. They're not
No,
doing this because they're malicious. They're not
no.
doing it because it's personal. These are situations that not all of us are used to or have been exposed to. And the more people like me who are, from another country originally, who are immigrants, who might have a name that's not in the regular vernacular, the more that we put ourselves out there and we're ready to tell our stories and talk about who we are, we make it easier for everybody else to also tell their stories.
Yeah. This young lady wants to know, do you feel the US is welcoming to you? She has lived here for 20 years, have cousins that want to immigrate over here, and she really doesn't know what to tell them. Some days she feels welcomed, and some days she doesn't.
You know what I would say to that? There are good people everywhere, and there are not so good people everywhere. You can't generalize a whole country based on a really great experience or an experience that maybe
Yeah.
wasn't that great. So
Yeah.
I've had
Yeah.
experiences as an immigrant where I've been told to go back to my country. I've had this woman wave her cane in my face and tell me that I was taking jobs away, which, I actually owned a small business at that time and I'd created jobs. So I've had that. But
Mhm.
does that mean that the country hasn't been welcoming? Of course not. On the other hand, I've had amazing opportunities to grow and learn. And, I've built a life here. We have a beautiful home. I have a beautiful daughter. So I would say, it might take time to feel really like you belong. And as a country and as a workplace, we're still in that journey of making people feel like they belong. And this is not just for immigrants. This is for somebody, born here.
Yeah.
And we're still learning how to make everybody feel belonged and welcomed, even in the workplace, right? Like you
Yeah.
could be a white man and feel like you don't belong. So we're still learning that. We're still learning how to include everybody in the conversation, whether we're liberal or conservative or white, black, brown, Hispanic, Asian. We're still learning, all of us, how to get along and how to make sure that every single one of us feels welcome. So I would say, there's no generalization. You
Yeah.
know, you feel you can build a life for yourself if you are flexible, adaptable, resilient, and you're willing to tell your story and you're willing to put yourself out there.
Yeah. Tell your cousins to come. Anyhow,
We
so
need good people.
exactly. All right, I want to dive. We touched a little bit, but I got so many questions about this. I want to talk a little bit more about don't push your emotions down. You'd rather work through them because a lot, and I'm sorry if I can't get to everybody, but if you could just address, they want some techniques and tools, especially a lot of the people that write in, they feel as if they're expected to always be the solution person, the positive person, the joyful person. The family counts on them. How could they get sad? How could they get down? They don't know how to balance it out.
Again, oh my gosh, I just completely feel that. All my friends they always say to me, oh, you're so positive. You're such a positive person. And Sandy, this is an absolute 100% true story. There was a day right after my cancer surgery where I just felt really broken,
Mm.
and I
Yeah.
was physically hurting. I was thinking about my professional career, how to take time off. I didn't know when I would be able to go back to work, whether I would be able to go back to work, what kind of work. I knew that I couldn't be in, the kind of demanding roles that I had been in the past. And I felt really low. And I called a friend who I thought was a really dear friend and close friend. And I said, hey, I'm feeling really low. And she's like, oh, no, you shouldn't feel low. No, you're so positive. You've got to feel positive. And I found myself saying to her, positivity is not about never feeling low.
Mm-mm.
It's about being able to feel low. It's actually about embracing how you're feeling, let yourself feel that, and then say, what can I do to move forward?
Mm.
If we push down our feelings, our emotions, that's actually not healthy for us. It's not healthy for anybody because, again, we're not being who we are, we're covering up. And if we're feeling low, it's okay to feel low. The one thing that I will say to women, and we do this all the time, we feel guilty about feeling low. We feel guilty about not feeling good. We feel guilty because we're not willing or able to give 100% that day. It's okay. It's okay to give yourself grace and kindness and time to
Mm.
heal. That's not what positivity is about. It's not about saying, I'm going to smile all the time and I'm just going to be happy all the time. Positivity is about understanding where you are in life, understanding the challenges, and then coming up with an action plan on how to move forward and create a positive life, regardless of the challenges that you might have gone through.
I think it's so important. I think it's so, so important that you get that message out there because the most positive, upbeat person, if they don't have a down day, that's not real. That is not real. And
Exactly.
by the way, Vibha, you didn't know this, but I had this really bad neck injury that I couldn't move for almost 6 months, and hardly anybody knew it. They just thought I was traveling, right? And a couple of my close friends I lost because they called and I told them what was going on. I'm like, I just can't. And they're like, no, 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 no. You're always the solution person. You're always joyful. That's what you are in our life. And I'm like, not always. And they didn't have the capacity for me to be anything but that. Now, since then, I have way more amazing friends that I can show all of me to, but I had to release those who were only wanting me to be pippy, skippy, and upbeat.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
unhealthy.
No, one of the things, and I'm so glad you brought this up because one of the things that I've had to intentionally, very intentionally do is to separate myself from toxic people. There is no point. You don't need quantity, you need quality. It's better
Yes.
to have four
Yes.
really good friends who will have your back, who will go to bat for you, who are there for you, who care for you regardless of whether you're up or down or in or out, rather than, 30 people who just know you at a surface level and don't really want to know the whole you. Like I always say, what you know of a person is like the tip of an iceberg. You only know this much.
Yeah.
We don't know what else is going on. The rest of it is below the surface. And how many friends do you want like that? How many people do you want like that in your life who only know this much? And you always have to act a certain way around them because that's
Yeah.
who you are to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, no
We're
good.
always growing and developing, Viva. We're always
Yes,
growing and developing.
yes,
And you know what? No matter how many times I have guests on or have reminders about showing up in the world with my authenticity. We constantly need others to push us up and remind us. You don't
Yes.
get it and go, okay, I got that down. Every day, you you need reminders and to work on it and surround yourself with those people who can lift you
Yes.
up, especially on the days you can't lift yourself up.
I love it, Sandy. And if you don't love who you are, how will other people love who you are?
Yeah.
So love who you are, show up with all your colors, adapt, but don't give up who you are as a person to do that.
Well, yes. All right. Before we go, first of all, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Sandy.
I loved it, every minute of it. I'm so happy that you will be on in the future for a longer show. But is there anything we didn't get in that you want to say to the women around the world?
I would say for women, community is so important. And I'm so glad you brought up, this question about friendship. As women, we want to share and we want to talk about our emotions and our feelings. And it's so important to build a community that you can rely on and a community that can rely on you. And especially as an immigrant, coming into an environment where you don't have your family and people that you've grown up with, creating a community of like-minded people has been so important to me.
Mm,
And as I've grown older and wiser in my career and in my life, I'm really intentional about the relationships that I build and the community that I build around me. And so I will say that again, be intentional on who you're spending time with because that's valuable, right? Your time is valuable. And so build those relationships that are really important to you, spend time on those. Don't worry about all of those other people who don't understand you or like you. Like I've stopped caring about people who don't like me. I couldn't care less about people who don't like me. As women, sometimes we spend so much energy on that. And oh, why isn't this person like, why isn't she returning my call? Why didn't she? I've just given up on that. Like, I don't worry about that anymore. I don't sweat that stuff. Like, I just want to spend time with people I really care about and people who care about me and who lift me up.
yeah, yeah. If they want to reach out to you or your organization, how would they do that?
Anybody is welcome to email me on my personal email address, which is vibha_agrawal@yahoo.com.
Okay. All right. My hey, I got something to say. People, do not worry if you missed it from the beginning. We are recording this, and then later this evening, it will be on every single platform for you to share, like, and rate. We would both really appreciate it. And you know what I'm going to say. Until next time, thank you very much, Vibha, and toodles.
Bye, Sandy. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome.